Merry Christmas, you filthy animals, and happy holidays to all of our fans and friends. Before we get into today's holiday edition of Lions of Liberty with our annual Naughty or Nice episode, I want to make sure you guys know about a very special promotion we are running right now for anyone who signs up over at our Patreon by joining the Lions of Liberty Pride and supporting us for $5 or higher per month. You can find that over at patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. We are just giving away merchandise, including some brand new merchandise we're featuring in our store. No matter what level you sign up at, starting at $5 or higher, you will get a free item. At $5, you will get a free Lions of Liberty beer koozie. At $10 or higher, you will get a free Lions of Liberty winter knit cap. They are very, very warm and very snazzy. At $15 or higher, you will get a brand new Lions of Liberty zip-up hoodie, and at $25 or higher, the Mufasa level, where you get to join us for a monthly conference call, you will get every single gift item I just mentioned, which also is in addition to all of the regular perks you get. You get various t-shirts, posters, etc., depending on your pledge level. So we are just giving away merchandise to anybody who supports our show in this special holiday time of year. Please do head on over to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. Sign up between now and December 31st at midnight Eastern to take advantage of this very special offer.
Welcome to the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here's your host, your guide, your shining beacon of liberty, Marc Claire.
Christmas, you filthy animals. That is right. It is time once again to welcome you back to the original. That's right. We now have to add that to our descriptor. The original libertarian variety show. The Lions of Liberty podcast is our annual Naughty or Nice 2018. Well, it's not 2018 annually, but you get the drift. The point is, I've gathered my fellow Lions, many of them here, to celebrate these holidays and look back on who was naughty and who was nice for liberty in 2018. Let's get to it. Let's bring everybody in. Why don't we start with the birthday boy? It was just his birthday very recently. He is extremely hungover, and we're very happy to have him here after I had to reschedule the show several times due to my own improprieties in life. Brian McWilliams, host of Electric Liberty Land, the very hungover, now 39-year-old, I believe. Brian McWilliams?
Yep, I am 39. My voice will be very low, but at least I have a voice. But I got that low, swing low, sweet chariot hangover voice. So,
Brian, when's the last time you recorded a podcast where you didn't sound like you were losing your voice?
At least
the 90s?
It has to be at least a month. Yeah, it's somewhere in the mid 90s.
Before
By
podcasting.
the way, what the hell? I was listening to one show, whatever it was, where JB was on. And I swear to God, JB sounded like Barry Manilow. It was ridiculous.
That was the Conspiracy Corner we did last month for Lions of Liberty Pride members, our Patreon supporters.
I thought he was like in slow motion. It sounded like the audio engineer slowed his voice down to make it sound low and bizarre.
He sounds much better today based on our pre-show chat. So, Brian, a quick couple questions, though, before we move on. My one question is, what are you drinking, if at all? And also, is Die Hard a Christmas movie, yes or no?
I just watched Die Hard today, and it is, in fact, a Christmas movie. It has Christmas themes throughout. It has Christmas music, and it's got Now I Have a Machine Gun, Ho, Ho, Ho. So, yes, it is definitely the Christmas movie.
There you go. And it looks like you're drinking out of a bottle directly, so that's a good sign.
No, I have a glass today. I only drink liters of bourbon out of bottles directly. I'm drinking Redbreast.
Ooh, very good.
Which Rico and I had in Ireland.
It's my favorite Irish whiskey.
Well, I'm drinking it. I'm not enjoying it, though. I'm too hungover to enjoy it. It's just kind of like a thing that I'm doing just
because we have to do a podcast. And it's a party.
Exactly.
It's the official Lions Liberty Christmas party. That's why I have a Star Wars Christmas sweater on. As I'll
but
display.
Yes, that's a nice sweater. But as you said, my birthday party was last night. Marc did not attend because he was throwing up.
But now you get a sushi dinner out of it, so you win.
That's true, and that sushi place is delicious.
I didn't know we decided where we're going, but we can discuss that off air.
You know where we're going. I'm not going to say it because they're not getting a free plug. No one gets a free plug on this show.
All right. Well, next I'll bring in, since he spoke out of turn already, I'll bring in JB Lubin, who much like another guest coming on later, has offered he's offered that he's going to give very little insight to the show. But I don't know if you've been on these before, JB. These libertarians in living rooms drinking liquor shows. We never have insight. That's the whole point. We're here to drink, so don't worry. What are you drinking?
Hardly.
What are you drinking? Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Only two things I care to hear about.
All right. So we'll start with the drink. I have a little Golden Monkey, but I only have one bottle of that, so I'll switch to cider afterwards, I guess. And then I have some Balvenie triple cask again that I got from the UK.
I don't even know the words you're saying. What is
Golden Monkey. It's a Victory. Very strong ale. Forget what style. I think it might be a Belgian triple. But it's like 9%. It's pretty solid. And the Balvenie, that is a Scotch whiskey. It's the triple cask.
Look at you.
I think you can only find it in the UK. I've yet to see it in the United States. Every time I go to the UK, I have to buy at least one bottle, or I can never drink it.
All right, and more importantly, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Yes or no?
I'll say yeah, for all the reasons, I was going to say the Machine Gun line, but then it got stolen from me. So I have nothing else to add other than yes.
All righty, moving on. Why don't we bring in the old host of Felony Friday, the man with the purple microphone. We'll debate colors some other time. Mr. John Odermatt, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, welcome back.
It's great to be here. Great to be back on maybe my favorite version of LALDL, the Naughty or Nice show. I love it. The only time when I drink an eggnog with some whiskey in it.
I too am drinking eggnog.
Gotta make my own eggnog.
I have some eggnog in the refrigerator. Kirkland brand eggnog from Costco is delicious and strong.
Well,
I never chimed in. I'm actually drinking Old New England pumpkin spice eggnog that I bought at Ralph's earlier, and I have some other eggnog as a backup.
Sounds disgusting.
also have some.
It's kind of gross, actually.
Yeah. Hey, do you like milk and
It
pumpkin?
does sound pretty gross.
Because we got a drink for
Eggnog
you.
in general
Well, I
is
like
gross.
pumpkin
If you're
spice
gonna eat it,
lattes,
might as
so I
well
figured.
If you're going to drink it, might as well go all in.
I'm almost done with this one, so it'll be on to other eggnog soon. But anyway,
And just in case things get crazy, I just got this. Just you never know.
just in case, an
Oh,
extra
God. Are you
handle
doing
of
your
Jim
own-
Beam.
Are you doing your own whiskey challenge
God, no.
by yourself tonight?
Never again.
For those of you on seeing the video, our $10 and up members on Patreon, you just got to see a big handle of whiskey, a big handle of Jim Beam that Odie has over there.
They're seeing gold looking at me right now. They get to see, as Rico had commented. Well, he's on the call anyway. As Rico's commented, my left eye does in fact close far more than my right eye when I'm hungover and drunk. So you can enjoy that at home for $10, guys. You can see this.
It's worth
glory
it,
in
really.
person.
Also,
See Brian barely able to keep his eyes open.
Your entire body is kind of falling off the screen to the left.
Yeah, I have a leftward lean to all things. That one act of closing my left eye throws my entire equilibrium off. Weights my body that way.
Odie, Die Hard, Christmas movie?
Sure. Yeah.
There's not going to be one contrarian in this, is there? I thought we'd have a whole debate about it. Everyone's just like, yeah, it is.
Well, you haven't gotten to me yet,
Well.
so.
Hey, it's Rico, everybody. The man who has offered to occasionally chime in with commentary, but he did not want to formally be on the show. But he is formally on the show because you just heard him. So, Rico.
Hello.
Hi.
I thought
What
you
you
were going to
drinking?
forget about me, but it's okay.
I was planning to,
I'm
but then you
busy
started
watching
talking.
the
So I had no
Goonies
choice.
anyway, so it's more.
Rico is literally doing a live watch of the Goonies. Brian's like doing voice text right now, secretly.
If anyone wants to live watch with me, I'm kind of towards the end where they're going down the giant water slide into the map.
Is it on TBS?
It's on CMT.
You can even hear Goonies in the background when Rico comes on. That's my favorite part. What scene are we at right
They
now?
just came out of those water slides that, and then they end up in the cavern with the ship. So they're just in the.
Oh, you're getting close to the end. You're going to finish
it's
before the
kinda
show's
sad.
over.
And when I turned this on, I realized that I lost $20 to Brian in a bet like 2 years ago. I hadn't seen it in quite some time.
A bet about Goonies?
And it's an embarrassing bet to admit. But I thought that Sean Astin's character was Corey Haim.
Well, you're an idiot. That's why I win bets. How I win money off Rico.
Was that how the bet was phrased? Because it should have been given away by when he said
No,
Sean
'cause
Astin.
obviously Corey Feldman was in there. And I thought,
Who played Sean Astin's character? Sean Astin or Corey Haim?
well, I'm like, no, it was Corey Haim. Like, I don't remember why it came up. And then I bet him $20 was Corey Haim. I just assumed that any movie that Corey Feldman was in, Corey Haim was also in.
Well,
You could
okay,
PayPal that
Page
through to
you.
me, Rico.
Yes.
Did you?
And I remember that was right before we went to go get all-you-can-eat sushi. So,
Oh,
Wow. Man's got a vivid memory.
date night for me and Rico. You know how it goes.
What else are you drinking over there?
I'm drinking Blue Moon with an
Looks so
orange
comfortable.
soy sauce.
He's the only one that looks comfortable. We're all in chairs at
I know.
desks
I'm
like
so
like
comfortable.
real podcasters. He's
Yeah.
lounged on a couch in
He's on
who
holiday
knows
here.
where.
Yeah. Why should I be uncomfortable for a show I'm barely on?
Where are you, Florida?
No, I'm in my living room.
Oh, it's your regular living room.
This is fascinating content.
Anyways, I was gonna weigh in on the Die Hard debate.
Yes.
By giving a different answer.
Please,
than the question
please do.
asked. Why do people talk about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie when they should be talking about why Die Hard with a Vengeance is so much better than the original Die Hard?
That's by far my
We're gonna
favorite
change
Die
the whole
Hard.
paradigm.
Is that the second one with the
The
military?
third one with Samuel L.
Yeah.
Jackson.
I have a confession.
Second one
I don't
is
think I've
where-
seen it.
The first one's way better than that one. Are you kidding me?
You haven't seen Die Hard with a Vengeance?
It's been so
I hate
long.
to
I
I
didn't
don't
say I
remember
hadn't
it.
seen
I
it.
remember
I
it.
said that it's not as good as the first
In
one.
fact, I've never seen
Well, you're
any
an idiot.
sequels to Die Hard.
Well, the second one's ridiculous because they're like fighting on they literally have a fight on a plane that's on the tarmac at LAX or something. It's moving and they're fighting on the plane, the wing. So that's something. And then Die Hard 4,
I thought you were going to say in the
is with their
air,
old-
but then you said on the tarmac. I kind of took it down.
Yeah,
a little
well, it's moving. It's like I think it's just landing, so it's going like 400 miles an hour, and they're somehow standing on the wing and throwing punches.
So you like
And
the third one because of Samuel L. Jackson, which I believe has the line, "Someone get these motherfucking snakes off of this motherfucking McLean."
Yeah, that's the one. That's the movie.
That was a great joke. Somebody out there is going to get it, but not you idiots.
If I feel generous enough in this holiday season, I will edit in some laughter there.
It's not getting any better.
All right, well,
That was it. This is at the start of the podcast. That's the joke I had at the beginning.
I think
Just
this
think
is-
what's going to happen towards the end.
I think this is maybe the 5th year in a row we've done this, Naughty or Nice. We did this even from the very beginning of the podcast. So very excited to bring you this very special feature again where we go through various names in the political world and judge if they are naughty or nice for liberty. And I'm very much looking forward to it. But before we really dig into some of the more debatable characters, I want to go through just some easy nices, some big shout outs, and you guys can feel free to chime in anywhere you want. And if you're going to make noise, like whoever that was, you should probably mute your mic. But
That's
whatever.
my bad.
I assumed it was Rico until I looked and saw him muted already. So I apologize already for the false accusation in my mind. But I do want to give out some nices to First of all, I think the number one nice has to go to the members of the Lions of Liberty Pride, the 100 plus supporters that we have over on Patreon who have funded this show, who have enabled us to do things like have video chats and have video content, have sent us to PorkFest this year, put on by Roger Paxton and his lovely wife, Jessica, who sent us to the Libertarian National Convention this year. Really, the people who have funded this program have enabled us not to only do the regular podcast that we've been doing for 5 years here, but to really expand what we're doing, to send us across the country to give you Liberty coverage on the scenes. And I think it's been a really just a huge boon to the show since we started this Patreon. So that's the number one nice. Everybody who sent us a dime, even if from anybody who pledges even $1 a month, which are some of you guys, to our $100 a month people. We've got our man Bobby Wilson. Who's the other $100 guy? Help us out here. Rachel Kennedy Lee Watson.
Nice.
There we go.
Nice, Mark.
Yeah,
Nice.
well, it happens.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. We don't even remember your name.
Hey, we had Davey Martinez at the $100 level for a while, Jason Carrier at the $100 level for a while. For any amount of time that people have sent us any amount of money, honestly, every dime really does help because we spend every single dime to do things with this program. So number one nices go to all of you out there in Prideville.
You're welcome.
And Rico. That includes Rico and
Rico?
JB, actually.
JB and Howie. Yeah, in the
Howie.
Howie, is that the
They actually pay
$25
for the
level?
privilege of being on the show. It's incredible how that works.
Yeah, how about that?
Howie's basically
How bad?
paying himself in a way.
Pretty
As part of
much.
the podcast.
And he works for us by putting our news links together. Howie gets a nice too. Let's give Howie a special nice since he couldn't be on the show. Unfortunately,
Thank you, guys. I didn't realize that you were going to give me a nice
He is here.
but I really appreciate it. I didn't. If I had known, I would have composed this speech.
he sent me that recorded file earlier. So thank you, Howie.
His recorded acceptance
7
speech.
Guinnesses deep.
Moving on though,
Housebound could not be here tonight. But
was that Rico's
he
attempt?
sent in this. Yeah, that was my pitiful attempt.
But I also want to toss out some nices to really to many of our fellow libertarian podcasters. I think I've seen a lot of growth in the libertarian podcast movement in the last year or so. We have of course our good friends at the League of Liberty. We got Johnny Rocket Adams, Chris Spangle, Howie's best friend over at We Are Libertarians. We've got Roger Paxson, who put on the aforementioned Pork Fest. Really appreciative of all the support from all of our fellow League of Liberty podcast members. Be sure to check them out. Of course, we've had a great time having a lot of Dave Smith's fans come over to the show, running an ad campaign with him. So big shout out to Dave Smith. Mance Raider, we're running ads along with him as well this year, and getting a lot. I think he's really blown up and put on a lot of great content out this year. I'm going to give him a shout out. Who else we got here? Dan Smots, we got to give a shout out to, because he has helped us so much with our graphics, with our music, with so much of the stuff we do here, sort of behind the scenes. Who else out there? Brian, your best friend, Jason Stapleton, we got to give a shout out to. Yeah, I mean, just pretty much I know it's theoretically competition. You know, we're all fighting for the airwaves, the Liberty airwaves in a sense, but I really feel like, in so many ways, the libertarian podcast community is a little different, because we're all trying to help each other out. We're really not trying to tear each other down, except sometimes, and we don't really need to talk about that right now.
Don't forget Nick Picone. Give him a shout out.
Nick Picone, who we'll be talking about a little bit later. He's got a really cool musical, Liberty-related thing. We'll tease it right now. It's called, what's it called, Odie? Freedom 365, I believe? You're the expert on this one.
Liberty Song 365.
Liberty Song? No, it's not.
Or
it's
no, it's Freedom 365. You had it right.
Well, we'll plug it in further detail later on. freedomsong365.com. You can go ahead and plug that into your URL right now and check it out. But it's got something really cool that we'll tell you about a little bit later in the show. But I think it's time to dive right in. You guys have any more naughty, nices, just quick ones you want to mention? I also want to give a shout out to, I think one of my favorite podcasts that I did this year, and that was with Gene Epstein. And not just for that podcast and his full breakdown of all the arguments against every argument for socialism possible that I got from listeners to the show, but just his great debate that he did on capitalism versus socialism and how fired up he got. I thought that was just one of my highlights of the year in terms of libertarian media and that sort of thing. But anything else you guys want to mention while we're being nice? Nothing.
We're not nice people, Mark. We mostly like to complain about things. At least I do.
All right. Well, I suppose we should dive right in then. And this one took most of the show last year, and I imagine it might do that again. But I think there's no more obvious place to start than with the man himself, the Presidente de los Estados Unidos, Sir Donald Trump. And I believe he was recently dubbed a sir and knighted by the Queen. I don't know if you guys remember that news story, but he's, let's say, he's a conundrum, I think, for libertarians, just from my point of view, because in reality, there's no such thing as a libertarian president under our current context. That's not really possible. You can't really execute the office of the presidency in a fully libertarian way. And I certainly couldn't say that Donald Trump is a libertarian in any way, but he's done a lot of interesting things lately that it seems like if I were a betting man, I would bet that Trump heard the show last year and heard a lot of the conversation and decided that he wanted to really give himself a little boost right before the show. And that's why he's made some of his recent moves. I don't know. What do you guys think?
If you actually go back and listen to last year's show, I predicted Trump would pull out of Syria and Afghanistan. Go back and check the tape.
Wow.
Did you just listen to that this morning?
No, I have no idea if I did.
Just on the fact that you know that no one will
100%.
actually go back and check the tape. You're just
People,
gonna...
I guarantee you, people.
Joey Meyer will check the tape.
Exactly. Joey Meyer will check the tape. He is our official archivist.
But yeah, Trump is. I listen to Scott Adams. I know some of you guys do as well. And I think it was today's live that Scott did, or yesterday. I don't know, one of the two. And his theory on this, on Trump pulling out of Syria and saying he's going to pull some of the troops out of Afghanistan, really comes down to him being backed into a corner with all the legal stuff that they're throwing at him, trying to threaten impeachment and all that, which definitely could be true. This rises above that and shakes the box, as they say. So I'm not sure if that's the motivation. I don't really care where the motivation comes from. It's pretty cool that we have a president that is willing to do that. Not saying that Donald Trump is some sort of libertarian president, but he's about the closest we've had in my lifetime, for sure, to actually have the balls to bring the troops home from a country where war was not declared. There was no congressional approval. And I think it's so funny that if you turn on MSNBC, CNN, even on Fox News, they talk about, pulling the troops out of Syria. Congress wasn't consulted about bringing the troops home. Congress wasn't consulted about this withdrawal. Well, Congress wasn't consulted about going in the fucking first place. So,
but they actually kind of were, to interrupt this point. They declined back when Obama was, they not only were they pretty much consulted. They declined to authorize.
take it.
Well, they never actually had a
force.
vote on it. It was going to come up, and then the public backlash was such
Yeah,
that
but
they didn't do it.
they could have.
Rico, I think I could hear Goonies when you mute your mic. Yeah, well, mute it, God damn it.
We've already discussed
In the middle
that
of,
Goonies
in the
will
middle
always
of
be in the
Rico's
background
point,
for
it's like, this is our time. Our time down here.
Is that a bad thing?
I
You
think
can
it's a
hear
welcome break,
Goonies?
to be honest.
It should be a feature for all the podcasts, have Goonies in the background. All for 2019, all Lions Liberty podcasts, Goonies in the background.
I think that what you said, John, is like a fucking Greek tragedy. That Donald Trump is the most libertarian president of our lifetime is a tragedy. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, like, if you're probably right. I can't say for certain, but I have at least a gut feeling that you're right, and that makes me so sad.
It probably speaks more to how non-libertarian presidents are in general.
Yeah.
Than it does.
We're
to
talking about
Donald Trump
the
being
same
a
person
libertarian.
in the same year you were talking about this, who enacted those steel tariffs that didn't seem to do so hot for us in our economy, but yet he still manages to make out as the most libertarian.
Well, and there was also recently the bump stock ban, which that is not even remotely libertarian. But yeah, it's
a very low bar. When we're talking about every president goes in there, Obama, anti-war, blah, blah, blah. Then he gets in there, continues wars, expands wars. Same thing, George W. Bush runs on a platform of non-imperialism, goes in there, bombs the shit, invades Iraq. So we're talking about a very low bar, and Donald Trump shockingly has surpassed it by doing the bare minimum, really. I mean, what he's done, if you look at it, it's not even that much. We're talking about 9,000 troops brought home from the Middle East. But in the context of every other president increasing the troops there by 70,000, impressive. And First Step Act, compared to Obama pardoning, 25 people? Pretty goddamn good. So, yeah, I mean, and deregulating things. So, again, man, we're comparing it to such trash. It's like, you got two hookers. One hooker's got full-blown AIDS. The other one's got herpes. You're like, well, I'll take herpes hooker.
Fair enough.
Whoever had the under on 25
way, you
minutes
wear a
until
condom,
hooker
kids.
analogy from Brian, you win.
You just so I have to choose from herpes or AIDS. This is my choice. This is what I've been reduced to.
It's an easy choice, though.
Yeah, it's an
I might
easy
rather
choice.
have
Of course,
AIDS.
it's
I
an
think
easy
herpes-
choice. But these are my
AIDS under-
choices. What's that?
Can't AIDS be controlled? With modern medicine, can't AIDS or at least HIV be much more
But
controlled?
they have medicine like Valtrex. You can control herpes.
Forever.
Like I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know which.
Well, the fact that you just said I don't know.
Yeah,
means
now
it's
you're
not
adding
such
some
a
caveats.
simple
I think
choice
herpes can
anymore.
be more regularly controlled than AIDS. At least
love
more
this
cheaply.
conversation. It's
At
serious.
least, at the very least,
We
more
got-
cheaply.
We got a title to the show.
Magic Johnson
look,
doesn't
at
even
least-
have AIDS anymore. I bet he has herpes then.
At least with herpes, you can control it where other people aren't going to get it. If you have AIDS, no matter how many drugs you take, you bang somebody who doesn't have AIDS and you got the AIDS, they're probably going to get the AIDS.
Wow.
Actually, that's not true.
Quickly.
HIV is actually really difficult to contract, believe it or not.
Oh, I know. I've
JD's been
tried.
trying for years.
I don't want to go telling that to people, so they're like, "Oh, it's a free for all." But actually, as far as viruses go, it's kind of hard to contract.
Well, your immune system has to already be compromised in some way, right? Pretty much.
All right, AIDS,
Like by
naughty or
drinking.
nice? Go.
Well, let's not get into it. Maybe we'll have a special show on.
This was JB's pickup line on Friday nights in Philly for like.
Well, you know.
You know, believe it or not,
really actually hard.
HIV is quite difficult to get. My name's Jamie.
I like JB's idea of having a special show. If you're not a Pride member, tune in for the 2019 special, AIDS. What the shit?
Maybe for the bonus show, we'll talk about AIDS and herpes
The whole
and
time.
all that wonderful stuff. But somehow talking about Donald Trump leads to talk of STDs just about every time. Weird how that works. But so what is that? Where does that put him for you guys in terms of the naughty or nice scale? Because again, we're judging on what they're doing or what they've done for liberty. So obviously he's done some good things in the last few weeks leading up to this show. At least in words, he hasn't actually done anything yet. Let's be clear here. He's merely announced that he wants to pull troops out of Syria, announced that he wants to pull troops out of Afghanistan. And frankly, I'll just believe it when I see it, just with everything presidents say in general, but also with Trump, because it goes both ways. We know he says bad things sometimes that we're horrified by, but we realize, he's just saying it as a negotiating tactic and it might not be what it is. So it could be the same with this. Maybe he's announcing a pullout and the real truth is going to be something not quite that. Maybe that's a negotiating tactic too. So I don't think we can give him full credit for this stuff until it actually occurs, which won't be till after the show, obviously.
So we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt? Because I was just going to put him on the scale that we've already set at probably a chlamydia level. You don't want it.
We're no longer doing naughty or nice. We're just judging based on STD.
I will put him on chlamydia for 2018.
Does that mean not that bad?
Yeah, not that bad. Like, he did some bad, but, we can clear this up pretty quickly. Just, take your meds, you'll be fine. We can sort it out.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll go first on judging naughty or nice. So obviously he's done some terrible shit. We talked about the tariffs, talked about the bump stock ban. I mean, he's just generally a very disruptive guy, which I think is kind of a good thing for a president to be, at least under these circumstances. But I mean, the one thing, and Dave Smith pointed this out on his most recent podcast, that he is able to expose the media for what they are better than any public figure president that in history. I mean, just to be able to, and who knows if he will follow through with the withdrawal in Syria and Afghanistan, but just by saying that, he's flipped all these Democratic pundits on CNN and MSNBC, all these politicians on the left, to come out sounding like fucking war hawks. It's incredible to watch. So just based on that alone, and I reserve the right to change this going forward, but today I will give Donald Trump a nice.
Ooh, he gets a nice. All right, let's move on. Brian, what do you think? Naughty or nice? I know where you're going to go with
Well, because, again, considering what he's done, we're just talking this year.
Yeah, it's 2018. Overall. Naughty or nice, yes.
All right. Well, again, the first step back to me is such a major, major accomplishment. No other president's really paid attention to justice reform. Trump has taken it on. He wants to do more with it. That is incredibly impressive. Even saying you want to bring the troops home is something that presidents haven't really, well, I guess Obama said it, but didn't do it. So I think that considering those aspects, the tariffs aside, those suck, and the bump stocks aside, I also want to point out one thing that you guys aren't considering is from a libertarian perspective, Donald Trump also, by paying out these prostitutes, is in fact supporting women and the, legalized sex industry.
Well, he had Stormy Daniels pays legal fees.
You're a prostitute.
So didn't work out there.
I'm just saying he supported. So I give him a nice. I'm already so drunk now.
That was the idea.
No, I'll give an overall a nice for the year.
Yeah, he's getting too nice. It's JB who just is coughing up something here. What do you think? Does this add up to a naughty or nice?
Yeah, I'm very unhappy about the whole steel and aluminum tariff thing, and it's already, the repercussions of it already seemingly, from what I've seen, been felt. So I think that is, I try to weigh it. It's like the tariff is basically, I'm torn. It's like he did do the troop withdrawal, which I'm 100% on board, but it is just words right now. It's not action. So do I put that in the plus category? Because if I do, I feel like I have to give him a nice. But if I just treat that as words that he'll ultimately go back on, which is very much in his wheelhouse to go back on what he says, then it's almost certainly a naughty. So
although you got to think it's going to happen if Mattis resigns. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. So I'm thinking he's probably going to pull him out if his, whatever fuck Mattis' position is, Secretary of Butts resigns.
Defense or Butts, either one.
Secretary of Butts.
So that's a nice again. All right. Rico, do you care to chime in from Goonies for a second?
Sure. It's on commercial, so I'll be happy to.
Good timing. Thank God.
Yes. So I think you all raised good points, but in the past we've always, or at least I've always said, with the drone bombings, you're still killing people.
He is, yeah.
And they don't seem to have ramped that down at all. If anything, it seems to be going up more and more. The whole support for Saudi Arabia in their basically genocide in Yemen, pretty hard to excuse that one. So even though he's done some good things that you guys have touched on, I'll still give him the naughty. He's better than Obama and G-Dubs, probably, but Not enough to get the nice. Right?
You make good points. I guess the way I'm looking at it in the context is as opposed to other presidents, because Trump inherited a lot of this shit too. Like the Yemen thing was already going on before he got in there.
Was it?
And
I don't know if it was.
Yeah, it started under Obama, but it has continued and ramped up with full support under Trump.
Yeah,
so.
same thing with all these other wars that are going on. So he's continued them, which is not good. It's shameful and atrocious. But I'm viewing it in the context of what he's personally taking.
What's the Trump's administration's view on Yemen? Because I feel like I heard something, but I think it came out of Congress to withdraw our support for the war in Yemen.
That was a recent Senate
Yeah,
vote.
so that did come out of Congress. So what is the Trump's position?
His position is basically, hey, the Saudis going to do what Saudis going to do.
Oh, so they're on board with that.
Starve and bomb a nation to death.
How do we become the Saudis' lapdog? I don't understand that. Shouldn't it be the other way around? At the very least, I don't think it should be that way in any way. Sovereign nations shouldn't be.
I should do a whole show with Scott Horton only about the relationship with Saudi Arabia, because that's a whole long-lasting topic of its own. But it goes back quite a ways.
Well, they've had us by the balls over oil for quite a while, but they don't anymore. So I don't know. So was that a naughty from Rico?
That was a naughty from Rico. And I'm gonna keep it real. And as much as I agree with all the nice points, like I'll give him a nice if we're judging on president scale. I'll give him a nice on president scale. But this is Liberty naughty or nice, and steel tariffs, banning bump stocks.
It's president scale. It's president scale.
Yeah, it's the Liberty scale. The Liberty scale. At the end of the day, you're still overseeing the American empire, and you're really the Yemen thing is a deal breaker. As long as you're openly, and he is openly supporting the Saudi Arabian government, and by extension, openly supporting the starvation of a country in Yemen. So I will applaud his desire to remove troops from these countries. But to me, I want that to occur, and I will encourage it. But it's not enough to get you nice. You need to do some Ron Paulian, bring all the troops home kind of shit, and a lot of support for a lot more bad things for me to give you a full Liberty nice. I share the sentiments. I'm happy about the things that he is doing that are good, and I will continue to applaud them. But I can't attach him with a you've been nice for Liberty full scale label for all that. So I'm still going to side with Rico here, and plus. I'm kind of jealous that I'm not watching Goonies right now, so I want to side with him.
Well, I'm not surprised we're split on this, but again, for me, it's like the First Step Act. If not for the First Step Act, it would have been a naughty for me.
And that too, yeah, that's another big point.
But that's the thing is that act, because I'm like that addresses issues here in our country. Not to say like people getting murdered is secondary to people having their lives ruined and families ruined here, but I mean, in a way, it is because it's closer to home. It affects here, our country, and the First Step Act hopefully is going to take a large portion of that and address it to stop these families being broken up. And like it really, even though it's just a little step forward, it does address a huge amount of issues, and it's going to have ripple effects that are like untold.
Absolutely. So
that again for me is really what put him over.
All right, so that's a 3-2. Slightly winning the nice vote over naughty for President Trump. And I think at the end of the day, we all pretty much agree. He's not libertarian. He does a lot of things, as any president would, that are not libertarian,
I wanna change.
that we're going to speak out against.
I don't know how I got put down
on
a nice because I was still conflicted. I think after you spoke, I think I'm going to be a naughty. I think it's 3-2 to naughty.
We won you over. All right, so he's still naughty.
JB's the swing vote. Okay.
All right, so Brian and Odie are the big MAGA guys here.
I was going to say something else about Trump, but let's just move on.
Let's move on. I think he takes up half the show either way, but that's how much he consumes the news. I think Obama, when he was in office, took up maybe 10% of the show. But it's impossible to be attached to politics without going through the Trump filter. Even when we go through these other stories, there's going to have the Trump filter on them in many ways. And I guess we'll just jump to this next one, and then maybe we'll take a quick break. But what about Rand Paul? I think almost everything.
Rico's already taking a quick break.
Rico's levitating. What's going on?
Rico's living in a quick break. So, but moving on to for those on video, Rico's literally walking away now. But.
And he still hasn't replaced the light bulbs in his chandelier that I told him to replace.
This is why you got to be on Patreon, folks. Let's talk about Rand Paul for a bit. We'll bounce around some thoughts about him. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll tell some folks about the big deal we got going on for our Patreon subscribers, or for new Patreon subscribers, particularly that sign up in the next week or so here. But Rand Paul, I think the biggest difference between our analysis of Rand Paul this year and the year prior, well, I guess it was really 2 years prior that he was still a presidential candidate, but to me, the filter of Rand Paul is really purely as a senator. All all that sting and kind of bad taste about his presidential campaign is kind of out of the way now. And basically you just look at him and I think so much of it is through his influence on Trump and through his kind of communication with Trump. So like I said, Trump can never get out of this conversation, but it does seem that Rand has had a lot of influence on Trump. I don't know who influenced him more on the First Step Act, if it was Rand Paul or Kanye West. I think it might be a toss-up there. In fact, we should probably add Kanye West to the naughty or nice list, to be honest here. But I do think that, Rand seems to have the influence of Trump, even though more than any senator, he actually votes against Trump more than any other senator, which speaks to Rand Paul's credibility in many ways. He will side with the GOP when it makes sense to, but he will differ when it makes sense. Yeah.
Also, in a way, not to give Trump more credit, but Rand Paul votes against Trump more than anybody. But Trump also really values Rand Paul's input and definitely considers it. So it's in a way it's to Trump's benefit that he doesn't hold it against Rand Paul. And you think Trump would be a vindictive asshole because, God, look at his Twitter feed. But
if you know how to interact with Trump, I think one thing you can realize is if you treat him with a certain level of respect, which Rand Paul always does, he never goes low on Trump or attacks him in the way Trump's enemies attack him. You'll get what you give with Trump. If you show him respect, you will get it back. If you show him disgust and distaste, you're going to get that back 10 times more than you ever fathomed.
Rand is sending him hookers.
What's that?
Have you thought about that? The Rand is now running hookers for Trump.
Is that your theory?
I think Rand has learned from how horribly he handled Trump during the primary season, during debates, and it just backfired in his face. All Trump had to say was, look at this guy's hair. Come on. Whoa, just hit my mic.
Careful there, Odie.
It's your turn now. How does it taste?
How does it feel?
Delicious.
Batting your mic around. A naughty for
For
Odie.
those who don't know, JB dropped his mic 17 times during the last podcast he was on.
But I mean, that was basically my only point there. So, but I mean, Rand Paul overall, I guess I'll go first again. I don't want to go first on all of these, but I do like that. I think it's important when you're in the Senate, you're in a unique position. If you pick a side, if you just vote all the time with Republicans, or if you're a Democrat, vote all the time with Democrats, you're not going to have any leverage. You're not going to have any ability to move the needle, to negotiate, to do anything. So I think I don't know if Rand is doing this intentionally. Doesn't really matter if he is or not. But by him picking and choosing on each issue, and, he's not as principled as would like him to be, but he's the most libertarian senator that I've ever seen. So by doing that, he has given himself and this little bit of, he's become maybe one of the most powerful, at least one of the most powerful Republican senators, which is pretty incredible to have the most libertarian senator be also one of the most powerful, who the president of the United States will come to him when he needs to vote for something. So, I mean, Rand's not perfect. He's not his dad, and he's never going to be his dad. I don't think he ever wants to be his dad. I don't think Rand will ever be president either, and I really don't care. I think he's doing a good job as senator for I guess for the way he's intended his own messaging to be. He didn't go his dad's path as being, Dr. No and being Mr. Principled and following the libertarian line. But he's accomplishing a lot, I think, and he's moving the president, which is impressive. So I'll start out with two nices. Rand Paul gets a nice.
All right, I don't know how deep we need to go on Rand Paul. I think we'll probably share a lot of similar thoughts, but if anybody has anything to chime in to add to Odie's kind of summary there, I think you hit on a lot of big points.
I have a point. One thing Rand Paul gets a nice for me this year. I think he's been doing the good work, and particularly his opposition to foreign aid to Israel, and in case this is a very inflammatory topic, so I'll try to tread lightly. But
why do you hate the Jews?
Yeah, exactly. So we give about like $4 billion to a first world developed nation every year in funds that they use for quote unquote defense aid, which is true. They do use it entirely for defense, but defense aid that has to be spent in American defense contractors in terms of Grumman or the people who make the military industrial complex. It's kind of a backdoor way to feed $4 billion of American taxpayer money into the hands of the military industrial complex. And Rand Rand Paul stood up against that, and in the danger of being portrayed as an anti-Semite and anti-Israel. That this is a farce. This is a joke. We don't need to be giving $4 billion to a developed nation. This is just a way to basically put $4 billion of taxpayer money directly in a handful of companies' hands. And this goes against, this is crony capitalism at its purest and most sweet and delicious tasting to the people who run our government. And the fact that he's willing to put himself out there and go against a very strong lobby group, and that could be potentially a caustic thing for him. He will get a plus from me just from that, because to me, it's a joke that this is still continuing and that people don't see exactly why it is the way that it is.
Number one, JB, it's not a plus. It's a
plus.
And no, you make a very good point. I was surprised to see Rand Paul rail against that because he had been, when he was running, I think, for president or in the run-up to president, I was furious because he had said an attack on Israel is an attack on the United States, basically lumping us in as in, if anything happens to Israel, we're going to go full-bore to war in the Middle East again, which was horseshit. So yeah, that was awesome that he did. Also, I want to add in, on the front lines of the battle against the United States staying involved with the funding of the Yemen genocide, Rand Paul is leading that charge. I mean, he is the guy that the War Powers Act, bringing it back. I mean, he's staying up there saying, this is crazy. We need to limit this. We need to limit Trump's war powers, which, again, it's impressive those two get along well because he is attacking Trump's ability to wage war unilaterally, as presidents have been able to do, because Congress has been too lazy to slap him down.
In fact, I'll give a mini nice, not for the year, but I'll give a nice to every senator who led that effort to vote against the support for the war against Yemen, whether it's Bernie Sanders or Mike Lee. There was really people from across the aisle, so to speak. And usually when people come together across the aisle, it's usually for something bad, like the Patriot Act or a new war. So it was quite a positive thing to actually see the two sides coming together, or many prominent figures from those two sides, to actually try to stop something bad. Just in general, you don't see that very often.
Yeah.
So nice to everyone involved.
Rand gets a nice from me, by the way.
Yeah, he gets a nice from me. It's hard to talk about. Rico, you got anything to add on Rand? I see some head nodding. I think that's probably enough.
Nope.
That's enough from you. All right, back to me.
I thought Rico has something bad to say about everybody. Well, I remember when I did the Rand pluses and minuses episode, I think I had like 1 minus and 5 pluses. Like, I don't know. Rand's been he's been pretty damn good.
So is that a nice from Rico? Thumbs up for a nice, Rico. That's a
all
nice.
right. Right.
So I think it's unanimous.
All around. Okay.
Rico, can we get a baby Ruth?
You missed it.
I'm asking you to do it, idiot.
Baby.
Well, that seems like a great time to take a quick break and get a word from today's sponsor, and we'll be back with some more Naughty or Nice. Hey friends, I got to take a quick pause here to tell you about another great libertarian podcast out there. It's called Free Man Beyond the Wall, hosted by the artist formerly known as Mance Rayder, now known simply by his real name of Pete Raymond. And I gotta tell you, Pete is a machine. This guy brings you a new episode of his own every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and he has done some absolutely fantastic in-depth interviews. He's had on everybody from Ron Paul to Thaddeus Russell to Phil Labonte, the lead singer of All That Remains, a very diverse group of guests, not always libertarians. He also did a great show with a Washington, D.C. insider lobbyist revealing a lot of the dirt that goes on behind the scenes in DC. He has done so many interviews that I have just said, darn, I wish I did this one myself. So I really do want to highly recommend checking out Free Man Beyond the Wall. You can find it over at freemanbeyondthewall.com, as well as iTunes, Stitcher, and all those fancy podcatchers out there. All right, and we are back here once again with the Naughty or Nice 2018 special here with most of my favorite Lions. Howie Snowden is missing. He is visiting his mom. We are all very disappointed we could not get a special appearance by Howie and his mom together. We did have Howie on briefly earlier for those astute listeners. But of course, be sure to tune in to Free Man Beyond the Wall, a great sponsor of ours right now. We've been working with Pete Mance Rayder Raymond with a sponsorship recently, so be sure to check him out. He's been doing some killer interviews. And I also want to take a moment right now before we get into some more Naughty or Nices to let everybody know about a very special offer we're running right now for new members of the Lions of Liberty Pride, new supporters on Patreon. We are just giving stuff away because it's the holiday time of year, the holiday spirit. Anybody who signs up at any level of Patreon is going to get a free item of merchandise, even at levels where we don't currently offer that, which currently right now is only the $5 level. You don't normally get something, but right now you will get a free Lions of Liberty beer koozie if you sign up at $5 a month. If you sign up at $10 a month, in addition to the free t-shirt you normally get, you're also going to get a free Lions of Liberty new winter hat that we have out, which is very snazzy. And then at $15 a month, you are also going to get, but you're going to get a Lions of Liberty new zip-up hoodie that we're also debuting here in the holiday season. And for anyone that signs up or upgrades, by the way, this also includes any current Pride members who do upgrade their pledge. For anybody at 25, you get every single thing I just mentioned, including your regular perks. You're going to get an extra koozie, you're going to get an extra hat, you're going to get a zip-up hoodie, you're going to get all your t-shirts and posters and all that jazz you normally get for signing up at that level. So be sure to check out all of our different levels we offer over at patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. We're giving it all away. It's a holiday season. We're feeling generous. We want you in here supporting the show, so please do check that out. Any other words to say, folks? But all the great content you can hear over at Patreon.
Well, I will say that Degenerate Gamblers is a show that we run on the Patreon
It's the best show.
feed, and it's hilarious.
It's fantastic.
Even if you don't like gambling, you will enjoy it immensely.
If you
We
just
should
like
really
stories.
spin
Yeah,
off
it's
into
like
its own show.
80%
Things that happen
not
in
about
life.
gambling. I feel when I listen to it.
And it's 0%
No.
about liberty, so if you're sick of that,
Yeah, exactly. If you're sick of liberty, there's a little bit. Sometimes it leaks in, but it's mostly just insane stories about what happens in life.
Very true, very true. All right, so I think because our first two guys took about 40 minutes to do, we're going to try to pound through these next set of people on the list, and anything we don't get to in the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to shuffle on over to the bonus episode, which we'll record as soon as we're done with this. Why don't we just bounce around? I'm just going to name people, and you guys can go. I'm not going to even set them up at all. Here's an interesting one, though. Again, of course, it's all through the filter of Donald Trump. It's hard not to be. But what do we think of Kim Jong Un 2018? Odie, we're sick of hearing you first. Rico's watching Goonies or something else now. How about JB?
He always gets a naughty from me. He's just a ridiculous bastard. He's being a dictator of North Korea makes you the antithesis of liberty. So I can't imagine him getting anything else but a naughty from me.
All right, straight naughty.
All right.
No caveats for JB.
I will. So, in regards to Kim Jong Un, the man is still a brutal dictator who has murdered his way through keeping his regime in place.
Wah, wah, wah.
While what's happened lately, like moving forward, getting that country opened up would be amazing. It hasn't happened yet. The progress is very impressive, and Trump deserves a lot. We didn't even talk about that. Trump deserves a lot of credit for that shit too. Getting North Korea to, at least on the surface, denuclearized, but
Dennis
they're
Rodman.
opening up the borders. We talk about capitalism being the best way to get people out of poverty, which the North Koreans are. Surely is going to happen if they in any way start to trade. But that being said, he still gets a naughty because he's only doing it to benefit himself because he knew his time was running out, that Trump was not a guy that's probably going to fuck around, and that he's just trying to protect his own ass. So he still gets a naughty, although the overall benefit is nice.
All right, well, I'm just going to say I think I have to apply. If I'm going to give Trump a naughty despite his good deeds, then I have to do the same for a brutal dictator like Kim Jong Un. But I can still applaud the good things, which are opening up the relations with South Korea and hopefully leading to a less kind of warmongering environment in that region overall. And it does seem like things are moving in that direction. They cross the border, they're opening up trains, they're doing all sorts of stuff that wasn't happening a year plus ago. So whether you agree with Trump's tactics or not, it does seem to be a pretty big factor in getting to where we are. So how about just an applause for the good and then a naughty still for being a brutal dictator?
So he is a brutal dictator. I agree with that. And he's been born into this situation of being raised as a brutal dictator. So if one wanted to not be a brutal dictator anymore, what would they do? You can't just stop one day and say, I just want to convert to democracy, and you'll be overthrown and killed.
Yeah, you could take some baby steps.
Hold
yeah.
on, let him finish. Let him
the man
finish.
talk.
He's
I wanna
digging
see
his
where
own
this is
grave
going.
wherever he will. Let him finish digging.
Maybe you can. Of course he could do that. And I'm not even saying that's what he's trying to do, but So, like, the way I like to look at the North Korea situation is I like to picture if somebody was in charge of North Korea or was influencing the situation, what is the end goal with North Korea? You want to have a free society, right? I mean, that's be the end goal with any country. Some are closer than others, but North Korea is probably the farthest from being a free society. So how do you get from the point of having your entire populace being enslaved to being a free society? It can't be a light switch. And I don't think Kim Jong Un is some mastermind manipulator that is some liberty lover. He's not. I think he's a terrible, terrible person. But for us even to be talking about him here, questioning, naughty or nice for the freaking authoritarian ruler of North Korea who has murdered people, to even bring up that question, obviously something has happened. Something crazy has changed. You have people in North Korea and South Korea, the what's it called? The demilitarized zone in the middle. They've destroyed whatever obstacles they had between them. They've rebuilt roads in order to go back and forth. They're blowing up facilities on each side in order to shoot down people trying to infiltrate. There's been a lot of progress made, and it's really hard. It's really hard to give him a nice, but I can't do it. It's not.
Yeah, I was waiting for you.
All that build up.
This is like the joke I used to tell people about the guy who goes to the circus. It's like a 10-minute joke, and the whole purpose of the joke is to get people involved. No, it's not the aristocrats. I should tell it here, but we would lose too many listeners and patrons.
Show. Maybe
the bonus show. But it's this joke about a guy that goes to the circus. He sees a clown. The clown screws with him, so he goes to clown school. You tell this long joke. It's like 10 minutes long. And at the end of it, you think this guy is going to get revenge on this clown. And all he does is go up to him and go, "Hey, fuck you, clown." That was what Odie just did to him.
Pretty much.
Spoiler alert. All right, naughty for that joke. And yeah, naughty. Rico, anything to add? Naughty for Kim Jong-un.
I can't believe Odie just gave this long soliloquy on maybe why Kim Jong-un wasn't a naughty. What the fuck are we doing here? You're losing all credibility,
Odie.
Odie.
We're failing at the speed round idea, so let's jump to one that I find interesting, and we'll save some others for later, maybe for the bonus show. But I want to jump to Big AOC, as Brian affectionately calls her, Alexia. But I'll call her by her real name, Alexandria Occasio-Cortez. It really shouldn't seem like there's much of a conversation of naughty or nice when it comes to an open democratic socialist. And, well, I guess I'll present a nice case in a way. Not a nice for any of her policies, obviously. I will present a nice for the fact that, much like Trump did, she is able to get people interested in the conversation. Forget what the conversation is, but to bring more people into the dialogue of politics. She clearly is able to inspire people to be interested in things. And the other nice thing is how much entertainment she has provided all of us with her commentary. And really, as libertarian podcasters, we need the Gary Johnsons and the Bill Welds and the AOCs to be out there saying dumb shit for us to talk about. So I think for that aspect, that's a very great thing for her to be doing, saying a bunch of dumb shit that we can refute. But I do think she is highly underrated. I'm going to give her a naughty because I'm not going to give an open democratic socialist a nice or anything. But I'm just saying she's an interesting character. I'm intrigued by her, and I think she is written off more quickly than she should be because I actually think she is a more intelligent politician than we maybe give her credit for. Much like people slam Trump for being stupid because he says a lot of things that sound stupid. So does she, but I think she does it with some level of intention.
All right. I feel like this is the inner monologue that Marc uses when he's masturbating, thinking about her in the shower to justify doing it, just to say. But no, I disagree with two of your points. The first one, that she's brought more people into discussion. All right. I don't know if that's a good thing. I think, if anything, bringing more people to the table that are buying into her idiotic policy points and are taking it by her personality is not a good thing. We want people that actually know what they're talking about, that research into politics and have some idea about the economic ramifications. What she's pitching and the people that follow her are idiots. They're not the people that we're going to reach or that actually understand anything they're voting for. They just are voting for it because they're like, yay, I feel in my heart I should do it. And also, she's not smart. Or actually, I would say that. Maybe she's smart, but she's completely illiterate when it comes to actually understanding the policy she's advocating for. And while you could say that she's like Trump and like throwing stuff out there, which maybe she is, She might just have good PR people. What she's doing and her statements are so stupid that even like rebutting them is a waste of time because they're already being taken to heart by all these morons that she's brought in. So pure naughty all the way, 100%.
Anybody? Do it.
I'll be real quick with mine. Yeah, she brings no value to the table. I do think she's dangerous, though. I agree with Mark there. I think she's very dangerous and probably could bring more idiots to the table than Bernie Sanders. So very bad, and I'll give her a naughty.
I'd just like to make a real quick comment. Apparently, she's below Kim Jong Un, based on Odie's defense of her.
Yeah, seriously, that you dismissed her a lot quicker than a brutal dictator that literally puts people in death camps.
Hey, who's to say if she was not in the same position as Kim Jong Un, she wouldn't do the same thing as Kim Jong Un? She might be worse. I don't know.
Boom.
The only people she'd put in
Also,
death camps are us. Okay, so maybe this is just self-preservation talking.
At least Kim Jong Un is a capitalist now.
I wouldn't go that.
That's a bit of a stretch.
He will be soon. Trust me, you.
I think she gets naughties all around, just like Kim Jong Un. But unlike Kim Jong Un, no real caveats for AOC.
Though she did say that congressmen shouldn't get paid when the government gets shut down, and I think that's the first person who's ever sat in one of those seats
that's
to say that.
something I meant to bring up because that's probably the best thing she's ever
It's like
said.
if the government's shut down, why are we still getting paid? And that's a good question. You know,
But the only
should be the
bad thing
first
with
ones to
that
take
is
a cut.
if they did that, they'll never shut down the government. And I like when the government shuts down.
no.
Good point.
You know what's annoying about government shutdowns is that they only shut down like the three things people sort of like sometimes. Like they're taking national park workers away, and I think when Obama was in, they closed like the National Mall at DC. It's
Yeah.
like, the few things some people actually go and enjoy. That's what they attack. But the TSA is still going to grab your balls. The war on drugs is still going to continue.
Exactly.
There's still going to be federal SWAT raids. Drone bombs continue all day long. That's not affected. Every single bad thing still goes on. But like the three things people don't completely hate.
Yeah,
is what
no
they
one's there
go
to
after.
stamp my parking pass at Yosemite. That's pretty much the only thing that happens.
exactly.
That guy makes too much money with that stamp.
All right, so what else should we dig into? Now I'm kind of thinking, since we have a few things we wanted to touch on, I think we save all the Libertarian Party stuff. We have a few Libertarian Party related things. We're going to shuffle all that to the bonus episode.
Yeah,
That's my executive decision.
Can we
No?
talk about one?
Okay,
I think
sure.
an interesting one for me would be Arvin Vohra.
Quickly overruled.
Arvin
Quickly
Vohra.
overruled. All right, we'll do Arvin Vohra.
Naughty or nice? You go first, Mark.
I go first. Ooh, tables are turned. While I do not agree with every meme or Facebook post that Arvin Vohra has posted, including some that have gotten him in trouble, I do appreciate his efforts and his attempt in his own way to keep the Libertarian Party principled, to keep it from being watered down, to openly self-assess himself, as he did in my interview with him that I did live at the Libertarian National Convention. You can hear that in the LNC episode. I believe it was part 1 of that, but I'll post that in the show notes. He said he tried a way where he had a more watered down message. And what he found was that when he went to Libertarian Party meetings and conferences all across the country, he found that people were in the Libertarian Party that literally didn't know that, technically funding schools through coercion was against the platform. He would find people that truly were in the Libertarian Party and through no fault of their own, because they were not told so by anyone else, had the wrong idea of what libertarianism really is. And he made it his mission to change his ways and to go the complete opposite direction and be very stern and very forthcoming and bombastic about what the Libertarian Party should stand for. And while I might not agree with his entirety of his approach from a persuasion aspect, I do appreciate his efforts to do so. And I think if I'm going to have to judge naughty or nice on the scale, if I'm almost giving Kim Jong Un a nice, I have to give Arvin Vohra a nice overall. That's my view.
Well, if Arvin Vohra was the authoritarian leader of North Korea, what would he do? No, I mean, I do agree with you. And I've heard those interviews, and I got to meet Arvin at the Libertarian National Convention. But it's just so hard to get past just the terrible job he did with messaging when he was vice chair of the LNC. Just fucking things up, and the whole thing pretty much where I forget what the wording was exactly, but almost defending pedophilia to a degree in a wishy-washy way that was just terrible messaging. And I like Arvin, and I'm glad he's running for president, but I'll give him a naughty just based on the tail end of his run as vice chair of the Libertarian Party.
I also give him a naughty. Again, coming from a PR pro's perspective, you cannot have somebody that's the vice chair of the party posting stuff on social media that's widely reported on, like Odie said, almost advocating for pedophilia or calling every single person in the military a baby murderer or whatever it was. It's such bad imaging because, like, while we always say, like, look, you should have your freedom of speech, you should be able to say, I agree with that. You should, but have some common sense to it, because all the good that he might have done, and he's a very intelligent guy, and I agree. I actually do like him, and I think he can speak well for the party. Having those extreme points of view is exactly what sets libertarians back rather than helping us move forward. Not even points of view, but voicing them in a way that is easily taken as a soundbite or a clip and then broadcast out to the world.
If that's your concern, then you get a naughty for your entire show, and so do all of us for things we've said over the course of the years.
Also,
true, but I'm not vice chair of the party.
True,
nor
do I see that in your future.
Also, apparently Arvin had a podcast, a Libertarian Party podcast, as vice chair that nobody ever knew about,
called Voracious.
Yeah. Good job,
Voracious. That should have been what it was called. JB, any thoughts on the Vohra?
I'm going to give him a nice. I think he's an intelligent dude.
The former progressive. Yeah. This is really interesting to me.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Of all the people, the former progressive.
When we started our Liberty chain, JB was on it many, many years ago, our email chain. He was, I wouldn't say you were a staunch progressive then, but you leaned that direction. Here you are now defending Arvin Vohra as a nice. I'm very excited to hear about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a nice. I think he blew away his competitors in his debate on the show, and he comes. I've never met him myself, but he comes across as a very intelligent dude, very opinionated guy who knows his stuff, and sometimes he's going to say some uncomfortable things, some unpopular things. That's not going to bring people who are on the fence or people who might not be fully on camp on board, but I do admire his principle. Even if he will say some things I don't necessarily agree with, I respect his bravery essentially in putting it out there. And I think he's his level of principle is something that I don't often see in the Libertarian Party's like hierarchy. And for that, I have to give him a nice 4. Someone has to be the asshole of the group, and I think he does that well, and I say that as a term of endearment.
For us, it's Brian. For the Libertarian Party,
it's very much a term of endearment if he does actually hear this. I give him respect for it, too. I think somebody has to fill that role, and he fills it well.
We have a very interesting situation here where Arvin Vohra currently has 2 nices and 2 naughties.
Can we go to Rico for this?
Depending on what movie he's watching right now, I think we got to go to Rico for the tie vote here.
Rico's reading. He's watching sports. He's got Goonies on in the background.
It's going to be a tie. It's going to be a draw.
What, are you going to abstain?
I have no idea.
Rico's never heard of Arvin Vohra, so.
Who's that dude?
He's going to be on Rico's Liberty draft team, though. Now he knows his name.
The very first naughty or nice draw in history. Arvin Vohra. The
rest of us are all engaged. Watching Rico, it's like watching somebody on Twitch play video games, except he's just not doing anything. He's just watching television. Sitting in place.
All right, I say we hit one more before we go to the bonus show. There's a couple options here. Would you guys want to do Stone and Parker? I know we talked about it at length on Brian's show, so
I mean, I really don't have an opinion.
Right.
But
yeah, neither do I. I didn't catch the end, the two end. What was the recap you did when with the Amazon, the part 2 of the Amazon story? I didn't watch that, so I don't know how it came to fruition. That would really affect my vote.
Why don't we only toss this one to Brian as the expert on the subject?
There we go.
Have Matt Stone and Trey Parker slid too far to the left side of things, or do you think they're doing? You kind of touched on this in your conversation with Dan Smots on your episode the other week, but is it more of a long con? Are they slowly revealing their, if not libertarian bents, then they're trying to show both sides of things?
Well, we're ruining the whole con of teasing the hey, are they socialists? And then you got to join the pride to find out if they are or not, because we do the South Park recaps every week, Mark. But I guess I'll reveal it.
Well, you already aired a whole episode for free on your show, so I mean, what's the difference?
Yeah, but that was to get people involved.
Let's get them more involved.
The first hit's
That
free,
was by
baby.
mistake.
Tease them now.
That was mostly because I had no voice. I was like, I'm just going to use this on the show. They're lucky I didn't just use me talking to my wife for an hour. So anyway, yeah, what happened was South Park basically they had an episode touting a lot of socialist values, and it was this Amazon box, a man that got trapped in the box, and he became a Marxist advocating for the workers, like the Amazon workers. And I don't want to break down the whole episode, but the following episode, my opinion was that this was a long con. Like they were setting everybody up because there was no defense of libertarian values or capitalism. It was just all Marxist philosophy in this episode. So I said, okay. I was angry when I watched it, but I said, okay, I think this is classic South Park setting up the long con. They're drawing you in just so they can rebut it in the next episode. And as it turned out, they did in fine fashion. They came back. They had this whole bike parade metaphor wherein the kids were competing in the bike parade. They then wanted to ban the bike parade for being offensive when they realized they couldn't win it. The bike parade is a metaphor for capitalism. And the socialists / Marxists want to cancel the quote unquote bike parade because they can't win it. Thus, they want socialism. So they did redeem it in a large way. It was a very good final episode. They really came back in a lot of ways to me, although they still don't get a passing grade for me on advocating that global warming is settled science, which I do not quite agree with personally. But overall, I would give them a nice. I think they're still on our side.
They won you back.
They get a nice.
They really put you on edge there all season, which you can hear more about by joining us on Patreon to hear all of the South Park recaps from Brian and our good friend Dan Smots.
Yeah, it was touch and go this year. But yeah, Dan and I do a like 15, 20-minute recap every week for our listeners.
All right. Well, I guess we'll disagree with you. That seems like the way to go. Since I haven't watched the show once all year, I've only listened to your recaps. So
I think one more we got to do on this main episode is Yellow Vests.
All right, Yellow Vests.
Let's do it.
They're stylish. I think they're good to wear in the holiday season. They help you
Lightweight.
So, yeah. I give them a nice.
Not warm.
I would
Actually, I think we should start with.
Assume JB is the expert here.
Let's start with JB here. The Yellow Vests, of course,
other than knowing how to say yellow vest in French, that's as best you're gonna get out of it.
Come on, you French bastard! Don't you have any family?
I
back
do,
there?
and I sympathize with them, but ultimately, you have to realize what the French people are like. They like to riot, and they are socialists to the core. So while they're rioting against the tax, they're advocating for things that would require more tax. So, like, how do you want me to respond to that? Their demands are things that would increase their tax burden, like, astronomically. So what am I supposed to do with this? How do I work with this? Like
it is. Are we giving them a naughty or nice, or are we giving the movement and what it could indicate a naughty?
You can
or
interpret
nice,
it however
right?
you like. That's the nice thing about freedom.
All right, JB. So what do you think? What's your interpretation? How would you give it? What's your
I
grade?
give it ultimately despite me disagreeing with their demands and what they're proposing, I will have to give them a nice just to show that civil insurrection can still change policy. You can get out in the streets and demand that your government not do something that the people have decreed is not acceptable. And the fact that they've shown that this is still possible, that something that the government is decreed will be imposed upon the people, and the people say we're not going to take this shit, and then they pull back from it. I think that's incredible.
Well, that's both I guess inspiring but also frightening, because masses of a mob of people can also advocate for some very terrible things. So, I mean, I guess that power could be used both for good and evil.
Yes, that's true. So yeah, again, I'm back to being indecisive in whether this is a good or a bad thing, but ultimately what brought them out to the streets was a bad thing, and they got it rescinded, so I'll give them a nice.
I agree. I would also I'll give it a nice, even though, like JB, with a lot of caveat, because as we said, they want a lot more social welfare, and the French already have like the lowest number of working hours, like the most benefits. Like they already have a sweet socialist deal going over there. But what I like about it is that you have people at least publicly standing up very visibly against this global movement, which people have not voted for. Like unilaterally, these countries have gotten together and said, we're going to try to restrict emissions to curb global warming, even though there's no fucking models that even prove that it's happening. We have no indication of what's actually happening with global warming. These people have very publicly and visibly said, this is bullshit. On a working level, which is where the people get affected the most, we are not going to stand for this. The elites up there in your white towers that make these grand proclamations are fucking us over, and we're not going to stand for it. So that, for me, is a major thing.
Well, I don't know. So are they really saying that they don't believe in climate change, or are they just saying they don't want to pay the tax?
They don't want to pay the fucking tax,
and
I don't blame them.
No, but it's one of the same.
That's all that they like.
Update: Rico has a candy cane.
But the crazy
I know Rico's
the crazy thing
essentially
is
sucking a candy cane. It's awful to see.
the crazy thing is, I think that if they come back and they say, okay, all right, we're not going to tax you, we're not going to tax gas, they just move the tax back to the corporate level, which would still trickle down to the people. Right, they probably would say, oh, okay, good, you're taxing those goddamn evil corporations. Which
maybe, but what I like is, at least like I said, like the visible aspect to me is the point, is that the whole narrative that these left-wing media people push is that everybody's on board except like these idiot conservatives or libertarians, these deniers. They're showing that people on the working level are not going to stand for taxation that's levied on them in the name of climate change. Now, they may or may not believe in climate change, but they're not going to stand for the tax. And that's what I've been telling everybody is you cannot say we're going to go to clean energy because it's not affordable yet. And the people it fucks over the poorest people, which is what leftists don't like to hear because they pretend that they're for the working class, but they advocate for policies that fuck the working class.
That's what I'm still, as far as like global warming, I'm still very much undecided whether or not it's anthropogenic. I actually have never done.
Really, as
I haven't
everyone
done.
should be.
I haven't done the scholarship to be one way or the other. But what I do tell to people, liberals that I meet, is that these impositions that you put on developing countries are inherently unfair. You look at the United States and Western Europe that built their economies, their civilization, everything they have on coal and oil, particularly coal, and all of a sudden you decide that these countries that have nothing can no longer burn coal to get to the point that we are. I'm like, when I say that to a liberal, you should see their faces. There is no retort to that. I'm like, how do you like kneecap these people who are just trying to get up to the level, almost to the level that we are, burning coal for like 200 years, and all of a sudden say that they can't do it? They have to use something vastly more expensive that they can't afford.
Only windmills for you, Somalia.
Isn't that sort of the bridge that the Paris Accords were supposed to be? Was, okay, well, you guys, because that's hard to do, we can't, to make that leap is impossible, so we'll just give you a shit ton of money, and then maybe that'll help. Isn't that pretty much what the Paris
in reality, it's just going to subsidize inefficient energy while still depriving them of economic growth.
Yeah.
Best of both crony worlds, I guess.
Anyway, I guess I didn't weigh in on my naughty or nice. I don't know. I don't know intimately really what's behind the yellow vests and if it's all good or all bad. I don't think it's a really. I don't think every one of the movements on the same page. Maybe there are some good people involved. There's probably some terrible people
if you follow it, there's like multiple like major leaders and they clash. They were supposed to meet with Macron. They couldn't decide who was going to meet with Macron. This is France. Everything's a mess.
Yeah.
So based on it being the French, I'm going to give it a naughty.
Based on it being the French, I'm going to give it a naughty based on it being ultimately a socialist movement that's demanding higher minimum wages and demanding subsidies for certain things. And while I do like seeing Macron sweat, and I do like the aspect of rebelling against a tax at all, I think that's cool. They're burning private property, they're burning cars, they're busting up businesses. I can't really give that a nice from my perspective. So naughty, everybody. Everybody gets naughties from me, except Arvin Vohra.
Rico, do you have an opinion?
Well, I just think the bar for nice has dropped quite low this year.
That's why I'm trying to give everybody naughties.
Well, you're engaging in your right to protest, so nice. Like, well, is that all we have to do?
As
Whatever.
Rico eats a
Naughty
candy
for
cane.
me.
Should we do a Rico
Who the
naughty or
fuck-
nice?
Who the
right
fuck
now?
actually eats a candy cane?
I have not had a candy
This
cane
is
since I was
not
2.
a can. This is a sweet tart candy cane.
Oh,
Whatever.
Yeah, the
Shut
ones
up,
that don't
you
taste
can't.
like
You get it
peppermint
nice.
are way better.
I have some Sour Patch
regular
Kids candy
canes
canes
suck.
at my
They're
house.
garbage. If you eat a regular candy cane, you're an asshole.
I do believe it is time very soon to move on to the bonus episode where those aforementioned members and hopefully new members, they're going to get all sorts of free stuff tossed their way, are going to hear us talk about maybe some inner Libertarian Party politics. But before we do so, I want to give a big shout out to another of our sponsors today. That is Nick McCone with his podcast, Sounds of Liberty, and Sounds Like Liberty, and a really cool project that he's put together. And I'm going to toss it to the official pitchman for that, which is going to be John
The
Odermatt.
official
right now.
pitchman. Wow.
Freedom Song, the official pitchman is the guy who couldn't even get the name right.
I'm sorry. I just have to laugh. If he had a podcast called Sounds of Liberty, I just like, what would that be? Just people orgasming over individual rights.
It's the sounds of like people doing
It's
heroin.
actually a great show, and this is a great idea Nick has. It's something that
is.
I myself I've signed up for it. I'm a big supporter of it. What it is in a nutshell is they're going to send you for every day next year, 365 days, a song with a libertarian message,
day.
and then breaking that song down, really talking about lyrically what it means, giving you the ammunition to really use that song if you're going to go out on Facebook and debate someone. And it's really easy to sign up. All you have to do is go to soundslike.libertypodcast.com/365. And yeah, Nick's been a supporter of this show for a long time. He's a good guy. He's pairing up with Luke Tatum of the Culture of Peace podcast and Sherry Voluntary, who I don't know what podcast she has, but I think it might be the Sherry Voluntary podcast. I'm not sure.
That's a good shout on that one.
show, I believe, yes.
All I know is I think her Twitter icon looks like Carmen Sandiego.
Well, that may be true, but also, just so you guys know, it is only you can do this for $8 a month, but you can also do a one-time payment of $65 for the entire year, which is obviously a much better deal for the math whizzes out there. So you get a different song every single day. For,
and I think that the most important thing is
that
Nick's
price.
going to close membership to it on the 31st. So you gotta get it. You can't
Yes,
sleep on
so
this.
there's
You
some
gotta do it
urgency
like
to
right
this.
now.
Yeah, I just did the math. It's $5.41 a month if you do the one-time payment as opposed to the $8 monthly. So I do recommend doing that. And you get a whole year of Liberty music, and you're going to get all this background info. It's really going to give you a lot of philosophic ammo, for your next Facebook debate, your next real-life debate. It's a really cool project. So we definitely want you guys to check out freedom365.com. And, of course, check out what we're doing, the bonus stuff, all the bonus content that we're going to record right now. You're going to find that over at our Patreon, patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. Anything else to add, folks? Any final words?
I'm still drunk and a little hungover, but I feel a lot better now. So the bonus show is probably going to be better than the regular show. And my left eye is still very much more closed than my right eye.
The interesting
maybe
part is
we'll even
Brian
get Howie's
looks
mom on the
worse,
show.
but sounds better. So that's
That is funny. That is funny and true. All right, folks. Well, maybe even Rico will join us here for the sign-off. But until next time, until New Year's Eve, that's the next time you'll hear from me. You'll hear from both Odie and Brian. Of course, before that, Brian on Wednesday with Electric Liberty Land and Odie on Friday with Felony Friday. I believe we're going to be hearing from both of you on both of those shows, from what I
It's
understand.
true. We're pretty lazy.
All right. All right. Well, I can't wait to hear your lazily produced shows to round out the new year. And then we're going to cap it all off 1 week from tonight with a New Year's party, a Lions Liberty New Year's party, like only we know how. All right. Until next time, folks, live long!